Hello.
Greetings from California.
Greetings from Florida, as is usually the case. Welcome to Marvel Time issue number 87. We are going to take a look at 5 new Marvel comics, break down some of the latest Marvel news, and of course talk about this wild and crazy 4th episode of Moon Knight. We don't have any thoughts on that at all, I'm sure. But let's start off with our comics, and we'll jump in with Shang-Chi number 11. We have been kind of in and out on this series throughout here. What were your thoughts on this issue?
Well, this is kind of leading up to a new number 1 is coming, so we know this is kind of going to wrap up something, right? And you kind of get the sense that they've kept trying these new Shang-Chi series because like they thought the movie was going to come out and then it didn't, and then so they started another one. But they're all kind of relative to Shang and his family and kind of re-exploring his father, his siblings, sister in this case on the cover here, Sister Hammer, not to be confused with another Hammer creature character we're familiar with. And this finally, it's not really a spoiler because it's on the cover of the next issue, brings the 10 rings, which was more of a Iron Man kind of phenomenon, into Shang-Chi, which is from the MCU. So it feels like this plots to kind of like align the character a little bit, which is not unheard of. When Iron Man movie came out, he just had the Extremis plot line, I feel like, and then it's like, no, we're going to kind of go back old school. So which is it makes it accessible and tells a decent story. Thought it was fine. I feel like we've been kind of vamping on this Shang and his family story for a bit because we don't read every issues, but I feel like I was able to pick it up a little too easily. But yeah, I guess fine's my word for it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There were some things I liked about it. I think the 10 rings reveal is cool. I like that they are connecting like that. Like you said, more of an accessible version of the character. However, like I said before, we have been kind of in and out on this series, and Shang-Chi has a really complicated family history, and I feel like I need a lead-in page that's just the family tree for the Shang-Chi's family, because it is hard to keep track of. There's a lot of different characters coming from a lot of different places in his family, and kind of complicates things at times. But I think this issue was it was good. It wasn't anything I'm going to be excited to read again or anything like that. But I think this was a fairly solid week, and to me, this was the weakest issue that we did. But it's not necessarily because it was bad. It's just that there were no standouts in either direction. This was just at the bottom of a pretty strong week.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but I would say that is just because it's this week. It's interesting because we picked 5 comics. This week, I think there were 5 comics to pick from. There wasn't a lot coming out this week. So, that's why, sometimes when we jump in and out of titles, it's just timing because we pick 5 and sometimes we have room for it and sometimes we don't.
Right.
And so, and we're kind of in between events right now. There's no Spider-Man book. There's only one X book this week, which we read. So, but I think in that it kind of forces us to kind of check in with some of the characters that we may not have. Like, we're always going to read Spider-Man. So, a book that we're not necessarily all over every week.
Yeah, it's been weird not having a Spider-Man title, by the way. A couple comments before we move on to the next one. We got Business Ben this week.
Only from here up. You don't want to see from here down.
Yeah, we'll keep the cameras positioned where they are. And hello. Okay, so our second issue we're going to talk about this week. You mentioned we had one X title that we did read, and it is Wolverine. And I'll jump in and say this is my pick of the week, if my shirt didn't give you enough of a hint.
Yeah, talk about a change in this character like over the week. We went from 10 lives, 10 deaths to a Deadpool book.
Yeah, I like that this is Wolverine. This is, by the way, Wolverine number 20. But Deadpool literally tells us in this comic that this should be a number 1. It's Deadpool in parentheses and Wolverine number 1. I love that Deadpool took over. You know, it's funny, we don't read a lot of Deadpool. There actually just hasn't been a lot of Deadpool in the comics in the recent couple of years, I guess. But anytime he shows up, it's so entertaining. It's so much fun. It's such an easy read. This was that issue that week that I just kind of blinked and I was done with it. And then even when you get away from Deadpool here, Wolverine is still very entertaining, and he's always a fun character, even when there's not a ton of action to talk about. But yeah, definitely, clearly, really like this issue here.
Yeah, I did too. It was a lot of fun. It's fun, but it still had a plot. You know, it wasn't complete sort of off the rails. You know, I if reading order sometimes comes into how I pick my pick of the week, this would have been a strong contender if I didn't read. I kind of already had my mind set on something else. Yeah, it's fun. And, you know, we talk about the X books being kind of heavy, and this is not. This is just fun. I mean, it's still in Krakow. It's still doing its thing. It's still dealing with the aftermath. You know, it feels like a new story, a complete pivot, but it's continuing the story. It's just in a completely tonally different way. So kudos to Mr. Benjamin Percy for all that.
Yeah, I also wrote a note here that I think Deadpool is the solution to the problem that we have with all the X books, right? Like, you just have, anytime there's anything complicated going on, Deadpool could just straight out explain everything to us. You don't have to work it into the story or anything. It's just, you know, works out very well. So more Deadpool in mutant comics, please. Our third issue is going to be Doctor Strange, Nexus of Nightmares. This was sort of just a one-off, completely out of, you know, the continuity going on right now with the death of Doctor Strange, obviously, given that Doctor Strange is on the cover of this issue. But yeah, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this one. This was kind of a difficult one for me to judge, I think.
Well, it's, you know, it's written by Ralph Macchio, who's like, you know, an old-time Marvel editor, and it reads like an old comic book where it's like they still have to explain what happened every issue because you might not have picked up the one before. So it's one. I mean, on the business side, it's one of those books that they release because there's a Doctor Strange movie and they want to have a Doctor Strange book, and it's a great jumping on point because it's basically the origin story, you know, with a framing device. And the one thing that I was kind of surprised is there's not. It's called the Nexus of Nightmares, but it implied to me that Doctor Strange would be, I mean, because the cover it would be in like the dream dimension, the nightmare dimension. He's not.
Right.
And, you know, so when you wrap it up, you're like, huh. But it does put in a nice bow. It's very wordy, like an old school comic book. It's, but, you know, if you're looking for that book for like, I don't want to say like a kid, but, you know, like someone who's like getting into comic books and be like, oh, here's just a fun one-off, no continuity required, Doctor Strange comic book. This is a good one for you.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you said. It is definitely wordy. However, the word, half the word count on this issue is just like Strange and Mordo casting spells. So if you just kind of breeze past the winds of Watum and the crimson bands of Sidorak and like stuff like that, it cuts down the word count quite a bit. So yeah, it's very much like an old school comic. It has those explanations that you don't normally see in comics today, which it's an adjustment going back to reading something like this as opposed to coming off of a Deadpool issue, especially. You know, so I liked it. And, you know, I'll say that I'm happy it's a one shot because I don't necessarily want more of this going on. Although I do think, you know, Nightmare is such an interesting character. I think there's potential connection to the MCU, but we'll see how that plays out in about a month. And yeah, I do like the characters involved. I just would like to see the story told a slightly different way, I think. Our next issue, which I'm going to guess here that I did not back you into a corner this week, Captain America #0. What did you think?
I liked it, and I fully expected not to like it because these 0 issues are often so boring. Like just basically like a clip show to kind of get you prepared for the first one. But this one has a little different because there's going to be splitting into 2 different Captain America series. One with Sam, one in with Steve, Sentinel of Liberty, and the other one.
Yeah, I can't remember the name right now.
And this is kind of them together. There's some funny dialogue in here where they're like, maybe you should be the uncanny Captain America, or the astonishing Captain, basically taking all those like classic Marvel adjectives, and they both deciding like, no, we'll just both be Captain America. There's no like, it's not like the Pope. We can have 2. Although I guess we have 2 popes. But so yeah, and does a nice job of telling its story. Zola's story, great. Anti-Nazi blowing stuff up stuff, but also laying a little bit of seeds where you go, I wonder where that's going. It's a 0 issue.
Mm-hmm.
You expect it to be completely wrapped up. You're not paying attention.
Right.
Yeah, I'm excited for the new era that begins here, according to the cover.
Yeah, I agree. I also really like this one. This was definitely in the running for my pick of the week. My favorite art of the week by far, Mattia DeLulis, I believe is the artist, did a fantastic job in this. I like you really see the sweat on Steve and Sam in this a lot. It reminded me a lot of that Jordan Peele sweating meme that you see all the time. I just kept picturing that. But yeah, no, it was entertaining. The characters are great. It's classic Steve Rogers dialogue a lot of the time, and then also feels very classic Arnim Zola, like feels like early days Captain America super villain. Like I'm gonna, blow up the city. There's a lot of fun stuff with rockets too that Steve, gets to say and brings up some Captain America history. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed this issue, and I'm looking forward to seeing where these series go, because like you said, branching off into 2 different Captain America stories with Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson, each getting their own title. So looking forward to that. So I guess I was wrong. I guess I did back you into a corner, and we have your pick of the week here again.
Oh, no. Sorry. Captain was my pick of the week.
Okay. All right.
I failed to say that. Yes, I didn't expect to like it, but I really did. It's my pick of the week.
Sorry. Okay. Got it. All right. So
this is my art of the week, though.
This is your art of the week?
There's a 2-page spread in here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is this some really good art. I should mention this is Avengers number 55. I want to say continuing the ongoing Avengers story, but it feels like a convergence of a lot of different Avengers stories that we've been dealing with. So, we're coming out of Heroes Reborn, which ended, a year ago at this point, I guess. Tying into Avengers Forever, dealing with the whole Phoenix saga that we recently wrapped up. Kind of didn't expect an Avengers title to focus primarily on Nighthawk, though. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, it's just exciting that the stuff that we've been saying, oftentimes in comics, the stuff doesn't play out. Like they'll lay a seed and the writer moves on or whatever. But we've been dealing with an element in the Marvel universe for a while across like nearly every title, and to finally see it start to come to a head here is exciting. I don't know how that impacts this upcoming Judgment Day crossover, but they've been spending so many years on this that it's got to have a payoff.
You would think and hope.
Yeah.
That Judgment Day is the one piece of the puzzle that doesn't really make sense to me. Like I mentioned all those other story arcs, and they all kind of fit together here. I'm not sure how we get to Judgment Day from here. I wonder if that is put on the cover as just sort of like a reminder, like, hey, this other thing is coming up soon. We're going to get to that. Because it doesn't really feel like this leads into that at all. But I did like this issue. I think Nighthawk is an interesting character. I like the idea of the Mephisto. There's so many different versions of Mephisto. I also want to point out Kyle's comment here. I recognize exactly 0 of those people on the cover here. That's not an accident. That this is like a multiverse type of thing, kind of. We got different versions of characters. So yeah, there's not many recognizable faces on this cover for sure. You have to be familiar with the Serpent Society to know what's going on here. But yeah, I liked it. It's still weird to me that we're pulling on Heroes Reborn, but I like that they are not just letting that story die, because I thought that set up some interesting stuff that we haven't yet really gotten into.
Well, and I mean, they brought up the Coulson stuff from that story. I'm excited that we're at Avengers 55, and somehow we got all the way to 55 without a new number one, which means like we've had some decent length storytelling here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes it's the little things. All right, so that's our comics for this week, but there was some other big Marvel stuff going on this week, and we'll get into some of the other stuff when we get to our news. But the long-awaited 4th episode of Moon Knight that we have been teasing for a while, to the annoyance of our own Kyle Burbank. But I mean, we kind of talked about on here how we knew it was crazy. We had seen 4 episodes before the show started, and we knew episode 4 was sort of this boiling point that just really like takes a turn and pushes things over the edge. But I mean, watching it again, assuming you have watched it again since it hit Disney Plus, what did you think? Anything hit differently now?
You know what hit differently is, I guess I was so like flabbergasted at the ending. I didn't notice that there's another guy in the sarcophagus that we just ignored. And, you know, we know there's a third something.
Yeah.
So like, I'm like, it's kind of like, you know how in Spider-Man No Way Home, Ned summons, you know, Tobey Maguire, then he summons Andrew Garfield,
yeah,
but doesn't like attempt anybody else.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like we're leaving a Moon Knight on the table here.
Yeah, well, with 2 episodes to go, I would expect we're going to see. I would assume Jake Lockley. I don't know. Maybe they're going a different direction, but yeah, that was an interesting thing that I kind of overlooked too when I watched, you know, for the first time about a month ago at this point. The only other big thing I took away watching it this time, well, I mean, now that we get to talk about it too, I want to go back and say I love that this episode really embraced the horror element, which is, you know, very prevalent in Moon Knight comics. I like that they kind of got into that. And that to me, just, you know, going through the zombie mummy things, that whole sequence, that got me really excited. I was like, wow, this episode really took a turn. It became a horror show at this point, not knowing that, you know, it's going to take an even bigger turn a little bit later on. But so even up to that point, this episode was my favorite one. And then it gets absolutely crazy, gets into the Jeff Lemire run that everybody loved so much, fairly recent run. I want to say like 2017, 2016, something like that. So I like that they opened that door, which now gets into some absolute craziness, as you see with the talking bipedal hippo at the end, which I looked up the significance of this hippo and the Egyptian mythology behind this character. She is the Egyptian goddess of fertility and childbirth. She's known as the nurse. I don't know what that's going to have to do with the story. If she's maybe just the first of many, you know, Egyptian gods that they're running into here, but we'll see. I
feel like that's a story that you need to write for laughingplace.com.
It is in the recap of the episode.
Okay.
There. But yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes from here, because the comic run gets very crazy, and I'm curious to see how far they're willing to go with the show. I don't know. I'm really excited. Next week, we finally get to see an episode that is new to us. So really excited for that.
Yeah, well, and you know, the other thing too is we've talked previously that this is what they gave you to watch. So, you know, they wanted you to know that this is part of the show.
Right.
And so I'm curious, you know, and I guess it's unlike, I would say, like, unlike Shang-Chi, where you kind of knew where the movie was going to go, where it was going to end. You know, it doesn't make it bad. It just there was no mystery to it. As opposed to something like WandaVision, where there's it kind of, you don't know what path you're on, and I like that, especially since we're all kind of guessing together, kind of creates a social moment. I mean, it's, if you think about it, you'll have, this will end, for the normal people, and then the next day they're going to go see Doctor Strange,
right?
And their minds might be blown. It might be more than they're able to handle. They might end up in a facility like Stephen Grant.
Well, and to take what you were saying about the series a step further too, I think even for us who have read a bunch of Moon Knight comics, we still don't know. Like, usually we have an idea of where the show is going to go and how this character is going to end up. There's so many different avenues that they can go with this character that, he's gone a very supernatural route. He's gone a very street level superhero route. There's a lot of different things. He's been a member of the Avengers. There's a lot of different things they can do with this show. And I just have no idea where to even start guessing with where they end at least this first season of this series on Disney Plus, and how they introduce into the larger MCU. But I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah, me too. And where it ends is also interesting, because it's not like so many of these other characters we know. Okay, you're going to see Wanda in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We know we're going to see,
right.
Ms. Marvel and the Marvels. We know that. So, and not that we expect them to die, but they kind of tell you where you're going to see them next. Even Loki, season 2.
Yeah.
But I guess I'll be curious to see it play out, and I'm excited. And I hope Doctor Strange doesn't overshadow it.
Yeah, which I could definitely see happening. But I think I am surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised at how many people I see, really, really loving this show, and a lot of people saying it's their favorite of the Disney Plus series, which I've seen for every series that's come out since WandaVision. So, that's not really anything different. But yeah, I got to point out Kyle's comment here because he deserves some credit for this one. The hippo is a nurse. She took the Hippocratic oath. Yeah, well done.
Oh, that is so Kyle.
All right, let's jump into the Marvel news. And, well, there was a pretty big one to start off with here. We finally got a teaser for Thor, Love and Thunder. And this just furthers my confusion as to what is a teaser versus what is a trailer. But this is a minute and a half of showing like all new footage from this trailer or from this movie. So, I broke this down. I shared my thoughts on laughingplace.com. You can go and check a very in-depth breakdown of it on Laughing Place right now. What are your thoughts on it?
I have a lot of thoughts because it's not going to be able to follow the comic book.
Right.
And it's very, so it's, and I mean that not in a negative way. So, how do you handle Thor? Also, girl Thor, or whatever you want to call her.
The Mighty Thor, I think, is just what they, that's their title run. So
yeah. Then you have the Guardians of the Galaxy, at least to a point, Korg, and all in this sort of 80s veneer. It just seems awesome. I mean, it's almost a shame that we're sort of like crunching up all this awesome so close together.
Yeah.
But I mean, I at this point I'm almost numb to it, like a trailer release.
Right.
Because I'm getting new Marvel content every week. I don't need to like analyze the trailer. Like, this would have been great, like, in the middle of the pandemic when we had nothing, and I'd be like, oh, man, what's happening? But, like, I'm watching Moon Knight. So, I like Thor Ragnarok. I love Thor Ragnarok. So I'm excited to see, Taika kind of continue it. And just, I'm just ready for the next chapter. It's like when they finally let me down, let's take Eternals off the table. Then I'll worry about it. But what am I not going to see this movie? Am I not going to enjoy it?
Right. Well, going from
and they also trick me. So they trick you. So I'm not going to like overthink it because they're messing with me anyway.
That's fair. That's a good point. But I mean, going from you saying you're not going to overanalyze things to coming now to me, somebody who spent way too long trying to analyze the bingo numbers being called in the background of a Moon Knight episode.
Yeah, how did that come up with anything for you?
I haven't. I mean, there's some theories that they're calling out numbers of Moon Knight issues to read, but like, there's so many different Moon Knight runs. You could be calling any one of them. There, at one point, he calls a T. There's no T in bingo. There has to be something here. Something's going on there. I got to figure it out. It's going to drive me crazy.
I feel like there's someone on Reddit who probably has this answer for you.
Probably. But this trailer was awesome. I've watched it probably roughly 100 times at this point. I can't get the scene out of my head. This, like, just before this, what this image we're seeing right here, when Star-Lord is saying, just look into the eyes of the people you love, and Thor kind of creeps into the image. So funny. Laughed every single time. But yeah, and you're right that this isn't following any one comic issue, but that goes off of what Taika has done with Thor so far, with Ragnarok, which, obviously followed Ragnarok, but also the Planet Hulk story arc, and mixed in some other stuff as well. So this seems to be going with the Thor God of Thunder run, as well as the Mighty Thor run, and some Asgardians of the Galaxy stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie, and I'm so excited. I can't wait. I love too that we got a look at so much. We got to see a lot of stuff here, and yet we still haven't seen Gore, the God Butcher, the primary villain of this movie, at least so we think. So there's still a lot of things that they have kept under wraps, kind of, so far. I mean, we've seen toys of Gore, but we haven't seen him on screen yet. And there's just so many details in this first teaser. I won't get into everything because we could be on here for another hour still. But check out the full breakdown on laughingplace.com right now. I will point out, as Kyle says here, there is a goat boat. You see Thor's mystical goat friends in this teaser. So I mean, there's so much. There's so much in this teaser. I can't imagine what this movie is gonna hold for us.
Although I want to go. This has nothing to do with the actual trailer, but can I go on my trailer soapbox?
Oh, please.
I know we all joke about the trailer for the trailer a bit, but you can't release this at 6 a.m. on a Monday morning. This is something where it should be halftime during a sporting event, or during, right. I don't care, you can put it during The Bachelor. I need to be fully awake to appreciate this, and not dealing with all the emails I got overnight, whatever else happened at 6 a.m. in the morning. This needs to be a nighttime trailer. All trailers should be nighttime. Unless it's at like a Comic-Con,
Yeah.
It would be at night. They should promote it. I should be prepared. I should be excited. I shouldn't just turn over and be like, oh, I got to watch this before it's spoiled.
I agree on this one specifically. I don't know if I agree that all trailers need to be like, I don't.
Okay, well, not all. Like, I don't know that the Downton Abbey final chapter, or whatever it's called, it needs to be done that way. I just need Marvel, Star Wars.
Yeah,
the
big ones.
Even like a high-end Pixar, Disney.
Yeah.
I want to be prepared to fully appreciate them.
I do agree there. Yeah, it was kind of surprising seeing it drop when it did. Aside from the trailer,
also so I can schedule to make sure our Marvel guy is on and can do his full thing.
Yeah. The breakdown of the trailer came later that day, at least. So, aside from the trailer, though, we got a look at some Hasbro Marvel Legends series figures for the movie. We got Ravager Thor here, which is fantastic. There is also a role-playing toy from Hasbro, this shattered Mjolnir, which we see Jane Foster's Thor holding in the trailer. So that's really exciting. Kind of just goes the same size, same dimensions and everything as the old Hasbro Mjolnir figure or toy, just with this new shattered look. The Build-A-Figure of this wave will be Korg in his colorful new pants. Here's a better look at Ravager Thor. The one that I really want to show off here, I do love that we have a teenage Groot figure. But this is the one I really wanted to show off here. This is Gore. We didn't get to see him in the trailer, but there are toys of him coming soon. What do you think of this look for the character?
It's hard to tell without knowing how he's going to be presented in the film.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not super fan of like the big CGI villain anyway, you know, so, you know, which Gore, you know, it's hard to do like a down to earth Gore, and especially in Taika's Thors, it's, you know, everything's a little bit more vocal, like it's chattier. So you need someone who you can like act and not that CGI artists can't make CGI characters act, but, you know, on a scale that makes interaction a little bit more comedic. So, you know, it'd be hard to, it's, you know, it's, I'm okay with them modifying him as long as it works for the movie.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm holding out my judgment. Yeah, I'm holding out judgment until I get to see him on screen. But I'm really looking forward to this character's involvement in the MCU. Really excited for that. Aside from the Thor figures, we also had a Hasbro Pulse Fan First Friday, but on a Tuesday, a live stream yesterday. It hasn't been on a Friday in quite a while. They really need to rename that. There were a lot of exciting figures. This is a whole Spider-Man focused event here as they are celebrating the Beyond Amazing, you know, movement that Marvel has going on this year, celebrating 60 years of Spider-Man. We got these Tom Holland, Peter Parker, and then Jacob Batalon, Ned Leeds figures. Some civilian Spider-Man figures. Love that. Love Ned with his Spider-Man mask on.
There needs to be more civilian action figures.
Yes, they said actually during the stream that those were made as from popular demand. Like people were asking for Peter Parker for a long time, and so that's why they went back. And those are Spider-Man Homecoming figures, actually. So
I mean, as a kid, I wouldn't have wanted it, but like,
yeah,
now that the movie spend more time with them in that world, it makes more sense.
Yeah, we got this Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Ham. They called it a 1.5 pack, which is hilarious. Going from Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse.
I want someone who's like racist for dimensional beings. Like, what's that word? Like, dimensionist.
I guess I can't think of a different version of that. I want to point out too, though, they revealed a lot of packaging for a lot of these figures, and they are moving to a plastic-less packaging with this art. You can see this is actually the front of the box right here, so you won't see the actual figure inside, which I like. I like that they're changing that up a little bit. I like that they show off the art a little bit more as well. You can see the 2-pack with Peter and Ned as well. We got a Toad figure for the 20th anniversary Marvel Legends series collection that they've been revealing over the course of the year. I really want to show off 2 figures specifically, and that is first going to be Null, which we got to look at a digital render of in October during PulseCon, and the figure that they actually had in hand yesterday is so impressive, and you can see the scale here with the Future Foundation Spider-Man figure. That's your normal 6-inch figure, and you can see that Null just towers over him. But the more exciting thing is that they revealed that Null is actually part of a 2-pack with this winged Venom figure, which is just so awesome. I mean, we both loved King in Black, and these are getting pulled right off of the page. So definitely something I'm going to need to look into adding to my collection in the future.
It's also nice to see figures pulled out of comic books, like current-ish comic books.
Yes, definitely. I like
that. We get a lot of like, oh, here he is from his like 1968 run, or 1987 run, but we don't get a lot of like new comic book character action figures.
Very true. I want to mention too, these and a lot of the other figures they announced, which you can see the whole collection on laughingplace.com right now, were available for pre-order today, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern. So you can go and find them, a lot of them on Hasbro Pulse right now. But because you mentioned that a lot of the figures are often taken from classic comics, I wanted to show off this amazing fantasy number 15 Spider-Man figure that they revealed as well, going back to the original appearance of Spider-Man. Another really, really awesome piece.
That's a lot of hands.
Jumping, yeah, 8 different hands for that figure. Jumping back to the MCU, we got to look at a new poster for Miss Marvel. I like that. I really love the art here. It's very colorful. It kind of matches the vibes of the trailer that we got to see. And I like that it doesn't give you a whole lot. Like, eagle-eyed Marvel fans are going to scan through this and not really find any characters that are super familiar. So you're not going to find a hidden villain in there anywhere.
At first, I thought she was giving me the finger.
It does kind of look like that a little bit, yeah. But yeah, no, I really like this art, and definitely looking forward to June 8th when we get to finally see this series.
You'll probably see it like 2 weeks from now, but whatever.
It's crazy to think that we are already on. I haven't even gotten Doctor Strange yet, and we're already looking to Miss Marvel. Last little bit from the MCU, Marvel was recognized with a seal of authentic representation from the Ruderman Family Foundation for representation of actors with disabilities in their projects, namely for Lauren Ridloff, who plays Makkari in Eternals, and for Alaqua Cox, who plays Maya Lopez in Hawkeye. I mentioned this on Zacks of Life too, that it's crazy. Like, yeah, they should get recognized. Marvel's been great about inclusion, especially recently. But at the same time, like they casted these phenomenal actors. They just did the thing that was best suited for what they were making. And Lauren Ridloff and Alaqua Cox absolutely crushed their roles. So, it works out nicely when you can get recognized as being very inclusive while also just casting the best people for the job. Jumping from the MCU over to Disney parks, we got a look at the Avengers Deployment Vehicle, or ADV. Came up with a more creative acronym for that, but then again, there have been some. It's better than some of the bad ones we've seen in the past, so we'll leave it at that. So this is the ADV. I like that there was basically a press release for this reveal that was very in-world. The word that Kyle, I'm sure, is shouting at me right now through his keyboard is kayfabe. I love that they did that. The car is made out of vibranium and designed by Tony Stark, and so it was really cool that they gave us that sort of backstory for this vehicle that you're going to see drive out a couple times a day at like 3 miles an hour, and then kind of just sit backstage otherwise. So it's pretty cool the detail they went into there.
Brought to you by Stark Industries.
Yeah. A little closer to home, we got some news for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. We learned that Isan the Searcher, by the way, is that your pronunciation for this character? That's what I've been going with.
Yeah, although it's with comics, like I've read it and I have my name in my head, but
yeah, it's one of those names that just never has been said out loud as far as I'm aware. But yeah, Isan the Searcher will be the antagonist of Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. I am excited to, quote unquote, come face to face with a Celestial. I think that is just, after seeing Eternals, I think that's something that will get a lot of fans excited. And I can't imagine how they are making that experience come to life. Want to mention too, this won't be the first time a lot of fans have seen Isan. He obviously has a big role in the comics, but also appeared in Guardians of the Galaxy when the collector was showing sort of the history of the Infinity Stones. He gave a look at Isan using the Power Stone to wipe out a planet. So not a friendly guy.
Yep. And at Epcot, you can just wipe out a whole planet within like 40 square miles.
Yeah, there you go. And then here's a look at Isan in Guardians of the Galaxy, by the way. So jumping out of the parks now, we got a Squirrel Girl, the unbeatable radio show. This was a surprise to me. I didn't see anything about this beforehand. Like this, there had been the Marvel Wastelanders series, which was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that. But now we got a Squirrel Girl radio show, which is fun and exciting.
Yeah, it's weird. They've been doing this thing where they announce something after it's released. It's different. Also, like to point out, also announced at 6 a.m. on Monday morning. Because that they made sure it got all the Marvel attention at that time. So yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was fun to listen to. The Marvel's getting to scripted, podcast stuff. It's it's I mean, if you have a commute, I wouldn't just drop everything and listen to it. But if you're looking for something to listen to and you don't want to listen to the real world, I don't blame you. These things are good. They just this one's not nonfiction, but the History of Black Panther one was pretty good too.
Yeah, I still haven't gotten a chance to listen to that. I haven't listened to Squirrel Girl yet, but I am excited to do so. I really like that Milana Vaintrub is the voice of Squirrel Girl. She voiced the character in a lot of the animated stuff, so I like they carried her over. Paul Scheer, I believe, is Spider-Man in this, so that's interesting, and I'm definitely gonna have to give this a listen. Jumping into comic stuff as we start to wrap up our news here, did you get a chance to see the Hellfire Gala outfit art that they have released?
No.
So we're going to get the second annual Hellfire Gala this year, and we got to look at some of the art, some of the outfits that the characters are going to be sporting in this year's event, which last year, I was not looking forward to the Hellfire Gala. It was very much, we were wrapped up in tennis swords, and I was confused by most of it. And I was like, okay, just give me Spider-Man stuff, get me out of the Krakoan story. But now I'm really looking forward to it. It was a lot of fun, and I'm interested to see, really even if just the art. Russell Dauterman is the artist who created these looks for these characters. Scarlet Witch here in her Hellfire Gala gown. We've got Wolverine, the very punk look. And then my favorite one in the whole set, this Doctor Doom is that's awesome. This is such a really cool look for this character. And so, yeah, I'm excited. I'm interested to see what a lot of the other characters do. Yeah, I'm curious about that too. Why is he dressing up for the Hellfire Gala? He's not usually a great party guest. But you can see a whole bunch of other ones on laughingplace.com right now. Lots of other, X-Men and other characters. It's not just mutants invited to the Hellfire Gala. It's everyone. So you can check that out right now. We learned that Thor number 29, I believe is the number. No, 27. I was right. Coming in July is going to see him team up with Venom, which means Donny Cates is reunited with Venom, and I'm really excited about that because, again, we loved King in Black so much. And knowing that Venom is now or Eddie Brock, I guess I should say, is now the new King in Black of the symbiotes. This is a really interesting team up, so I'm excited to see where that goes. And finally, we learned that Hulk Planet will begin with Hulk number 9 coming up in July. Basically, this new story arc is going to let us know what it's like to see a society built by Hulks for Hulks and how that is run by a interesting new ruler named Monolith, who you can see there on the cover. Interesting. There's some crazy stuff going on with Hulk right now, so I'm interested to see where that goes. And then this is Hulk Planet, not to be confused with Planet Hulk. 2 different storylines.
Yeah, I mean, talk about Donny Cates just being nuts. But,
so yeah, that's all our Marvel news for this week. There was just a little bit of stuff for us to talk about.
I'm already tired. You got a crazy couple weeks coming up, so
I got a crazy couple months coming up. It's going to be pretty wild. Lots of stuff going on. So
yeah, I don't have anything to say except stay tuned. Coverage wise, I can't tell you why, but stay tuned to us this evening. We may be back with more videos.
This is news to me, actually. Now I'm on the edge of my seat.
It's one of those things we're not supposed to talk about, but I can tell you, we'll be here.
Before we wrap things up, what are you reading on Marvel Unlimited right now?
I actually went back and read some Moon Knight. Marvel Unlimited, Marvel, what's it called? The thing with the points. Marvel Insider.
Oh, Insider, yeah.
Is doing a reading challenge. So you get points if you read certain issues of Moon Knight. So I decided, I'll read those and get my points.
Yeah, I saw that and meant to go and do it, and then I was like, you know what? I don't even know how many points I have, or I've never redeemed any of my points anyway. So I'll get to it when I get to it. But for now, and for no reason at all, based on what else has been going on around the world of Marvel, I've been reading Thor: God of Thunder, revisiting, I should say, the Jason Aaron run on Thor, which is fantastic and features Gore the God Butcher, creating some problems. So, and there's a shot in the trailer, by the way, that is lifted right out of the third issue in this series. I mean, aside from the presence of one other character, it is exactly the same. So it's really, really cool to see stuff like that. So, yeah, highly recommend Thor: God of Thunder.
Talk about Thor: God of Thunder. Yeah, and so we were in the midst of our Marvel Initiative content push. Yay. Although Disney's making it really easy.
Yeah, just a little, yeah.
So, yeah, just stay with us. Trust me. You'll like it.
Yeah, plenty of Marvel stuff for me to tell you guys all about. Anything else before we wrap up?
No. What's it going to be like to have to... I probably shouldn't say this. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.